Good afternoon, everyone. The first panel session of the afternoon. So, as you can see, we will be talking about raising debt and equity and how easy it is or how difficult it is by learning from the experiences of the esteemed panelists here. Before we start off, I would like to give a slight introduction to all three of them so that you know the backgrounds with which they are coming from and get a better feel of how their journeys have helped in shaping, or how they have learned to raise debt and equity or are supporting organizations in raising debt and equity. So to start off with, I'll start with Mr. Vinay on the right. He heads the SRO of MFIN, which is an industry network and an RBI recognized self-regulatory organization. He has more than 2 decades of experience in the finance sector. MFIN focuses on enabling policies and in creating policies and a business environment for facilitating a responsible lending. Now coming to Mr. Kulbhushan. Kulbhushan has been helping organizations raise capital for SMEs from capital markets since the last 7 years and has raised more than 500 crores in the last 5 years itself. He deals with pre-IPO stages of MSMEs as well, and one of his success stories here is Anirudh himself. And talking about Anirudh is from one of the fastest growing solar company in the currently in India, and he has grown 30x in the last 5 years itself. So a huge round of applause for all three of them here. Last but not least about me, I am a professor of business strategy at NMIMS Mumbai. So to start off the discussion, I would like to first understand from all three of you, if you can just throw some lights on the MSME lending space, from the debt side or the equity side, because in the morning, we got to know about a lot of facts as well, some of which I had in fact researched as well and thought I'll come and talk. For example, as in the previous speaker in the previous panel, they said, we have more than 7 crores of MSMEs existing, and of that, 98% are from micro organizations. And with that, also, if you look at it, only about 51%, mostly about 51%, and there are some data points which also say up to 60% of those are from rural areas. Now, at one part, we talk about startups, PE funding, VC funding, and all the nicer things of the world. And at one point, we talk about MSMEs, which are not really getting the money or the capital. The access to capital is kind of limited. So to understand this dichotomy, I would like to open up the dialogue with Dr. Vinay by asking him to brief or to just talk about what are the difficulties in the debt space as of now.
Afternoon, everyone. I represent MFIN. MFIN is an industry organization of banks, SFBs, NBFCs involved in giving loans to people, right? All these MSMEs. Now, just a quick a few data points before I get a bit more into detail, as she rightly pointed out. Approximately 27 lakhs worth of loans have been given out to the MSME sector as of end of March, out of which 1/4 goes to the segment which we call micro, which is effectively up to 100 lakhs of loans. The interesting thing to note here is that when you want to expand the amount of loans that you're giving out to this sector, you can either give more loans to existing clients or get more clients in. The interesting bit here is that nearly 60% of new clients who are coming in come in this micro segment. So the point I'm trying to make is that the clients who come in with very small loans, and then they move up the ladder, and then they of course demand higher amounts of loans. So this is the space from our perspective which needs a lot of focus, and MFIN as well as SIDBI and NABARD, a tremendous amount of work which is happening. Briefly, 2 broad things. One, of course, what our members do is nothing but take money from somebody else and give it to the people who need the money, right? So we need a regular supply of money, which for NBFCs is a big problem because NBFCs don't take deposits. So there's been a lot of effort in terms of refinancing, in terms of starting various schemes, credit guarantee, etc., to make more money available to lenders. And on the borrower side, we have to ensure that more and more borrowers get formalized. Right? Once they get formalized, only are lenders comfortable in giving out monies. So there's a humongous amount of work which is happening in terms of issuing Udyam numbers to them, which effectively would be an identity backed by an Aadhaar card, a unique identifier for all the MSMEs, which SIDBI is involved in. MFIN is also playing a very important role in that. In addition to that, there's a whole lot of other work happening with credit bureaus, because the data which needs to come to us from credit bureaus has to be of a certain quality. There are gaps in that. So we're working closely with RBI, etc. We can talk about these points as we go along, but these are the main two areas, just to summarize. One, in ensuring more and more funds are available to lenders to give onwards to borrowers, number one. And number two is in terms of formalizing the borrower so that they can get loans faster as and when they want.
Thank you. According to you, what do you think are the major challenges in the equity space? So talking from debt space, we found these two. According to you, in the equity space, what are the major challenges that MSME face?
So before coming to the challenges, let me just give a brief about what is the platform and what we do. Right? Sure. So we focuses on SMEs, not micro, but SMEs, and we try to raise fund for SME companies, manufacturing primarily, from capital market. So there is a very beautiful platform of BSE and SE both separately. It was built in 2013, so almost in last 10 years, approximately 800 companies has approached these SME listing platform, and they have raised approximately 11,000 crore rupees. So this number looks good, but when we compare it to the number of companies which operates in India, like 7 crores, if we take even 10% of which, if it is not micro, then 70 lakh companies are there, and out of which only 800 got listed in last 10 years. So this is the biggest challenge. The challenge is of awareness. There is an ample amount of equity which is available for the companies. There is an ample amount of investment which is readily available for the companies, but they do not approach it. That is the biggest challenge for any SME. Now, every regulator, every stock exchange, we as a merchant banker, so I represent Corporate Capital Ventures, which happens to be the SEBI registered merchant banker, and we primarily focus on SMEs. We do a lot of awareness activity. We do a lot of dialogue with industry organizations. We do a lot of awareness programs. But even though the companies are not coming up, so 800 companies in 10 years is a very, very depressing number. Though the companies which have approached have done very, very, very well on the listing platforms. Most of the companies have, changed their orbit. They have taken the growth capital. They have been growing, but as I said, the challenge is of awareness. Now, why they do not, take this platform or take benefit of this platform is, I think I have categorized these challenges into 4 parts. So one, they think that listing is something which is for the larger companies, and we are not eligible. Though the regulations, the eligibility criteria is very simple. So I can also say that there is no criteria. Even a company with, say, 1 crore of turnover can get listed, but they think that no, it is a platform for larger companies. So the challenge is one, that they do not think that we are eligible. The second thing, they think that I am selling my company. So it's a biasedness about the ownership, about the assets, that I have such factory land. If I am selling my stake, is it means I am selling the 25% in my factory? So these kind of biasness and the non-educational part, it becomes a major challenge.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. See, there is so much of finance available, yet we are.
So I'll just give a statistics. For the IPO of Oriana Power, the IPO size was 60 crores. And the IPO was subscribed by 7,800 crores. So
Wow.
it is that kind of money which is available. But companies are not going ahead and they are not taking it. That is the basic challenge. The other challenge which I find is a road barrier for companies to approach capital market is the governance issue, the transparency issue, the reporting issue, the disclosure issue. They find that they are doing it for they are doing this business for themselves. So, and why should they report to someone? And that is a mental block. I can just say that it is a mental block which is coming in the way of their growth. That is it.
Thank
What do you
you.
think?
Thank you. And it's nice to show that, typical understanding is raising equity is difficult. But here is an example. Here is somebody who's saying raising equity is not as difficult as you think. And it can be from very, very small volumes to volumes that we, even ourselves who were looking for an IPO, did not even think about. So let's hear out from Anirudh about how he as an entrepreneur feels what are the challenges when you wanted to raise equity or debt or any other kind of finance. What do you think were the challenges that you initially faced?
Yeah, hi, hello everyone. I'm Anirudh, running a company called Oriana Power. And yes, challenges are there. But MSME has to think beyond bootstrapping. Once they think beyond bootstrapping, then there are lots of opportunities are there. The major challenges, what I think MSME is facing is payment crunch, delayed payments. So major three issues are cash flow problems, collaterals are not available, and equity is not available. So for cash flow problems, there are certain solutions like which US has accepted 20 years back, China has done 10 years back, UK has done many years back. So they have started doing invoice factoring. Invoice discounting is there in India, but invoice factoring is the major thing that can change, that can turn around the MSMEs in India. If you'll get payment after dispatching the material or after invoices and you will get factoring, and then client is responsible for paying for that, then it will become a simplest tool for scale up. Second, purchase order financing. We have never heard of purchase order financing in MSMEs. When we went to bank, they say, "ये होता ही नहीं है," right? So, in UK, if you will see, thousands of businesses are on purchase order financing. They get purchase order from the reputed companies. Now we have e-invoicing placed here. We have escrow mechanism there. So, if purchase order financing will be there, then things will ease. Then project financing. Project financing is available for larger companies, not for smaller companies. And India is getting bigger and bigger in infrastructure. So if MSME will become a part of this revolution, this infrastructure revolution, then definitely it will ease the solution of MSME. And last one is supply chain financing. If big companies will give supply chain financing to their vendors, then the whole chain will get payments on time, and when this payment flow will ease for everyone, then MSME will survive and they will rise. Second problem is collateral. Banks are asking for 120% collateral, 150% collateral. In UK, in Australia, in Canada, 25%, 30% is sufficient. So we need to bring those mechanisms. And third one is equity. Yes, that's what I said. MSMEs should go beyond bootstrapping. So we have raised funds through MSME IPO, and it was a great journey for us. Thanks to Kulbhushan, who is with us. Thanks to Amit Kumar, who brings those things in our knowledge. He's founder of MSMEx. He brings those knowledge for us, and there's lots of opportunities coming over, including visibility of the company, brand enhancement. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. But essentially what you're trying to say here is that equity raising is way significantly easier than raising debt. And the collaterals which are being demanded at this point of time by most of the banks are something which are exorbitant. and that's kind of a policy change suggestion that you're suggesting, right? So I take this question to you, Mr. Vinay. What are your thoughts on the existing debt instruments? How are if you look at from your research and from your organization perspective, how do you see the MSMEs and their debt to equity ratios? How are they looking like? And is it really the ground fact that raising debt is really, really difficult because of the huge amount of collaterals?
So yeah, there is some what he's saying is to an extent right, because even if you look at the data for the last year or so, the ticket sizes in the higher segments have been coming down, right? Whereas the ticket sizes in the lower segment, which is the micro loans, as I mentioned, have been going up. Most of the new client acquisition is also happening at the lower end of the chain. So there certainly are challenges at the other end. I think currently some of the challenges would be because of the spillover effects of COVID, where the NPAs really shot up a lot. And I think we will all accept that having a collateral is one thing, but God forbid, if you have to take over the collateral and convert it into cash, that process is not easy. Forget about medium-sized companies, even large companies, we all know what NCLT and all that stuff is happening. So those are the things are there, but improvements we are regularly seeing. Those are policies which are evolving. Right, and there's a lot of work happening. But while collateral is one side, on the product development side, as he rightly mentioned, there is a substantial amount of work happening, which is also being supported by the formalization which is happening. So all the account aggregator framework, the GSTN data that is coming in, Udyam number I mentioned, all that is going to facilitate cash-based lending, which is what he was mentioning in terms of invoice-based, purchase order-based, etc. Which, we are late in that, but it's developing, and there are substantial amount of startups, fintechs, and a lot of big banks and big lenders are getting into it. Then again, it will take some time before they really move down the ladder, because as of now, of course, they're focused on the large companies, your Marutis and ITCs. Slowly, of course, it'll come. We are in that phase where things are developing, all the building blocks are being put into place. But at this point in time, certainly there are challenges which we're working towards.
On that note only, so these are challenges which all of us understand. But at the same point of time, as you rightly said, there are so many schemes, there are so many facilitation which are there, and which the government and other ancillary bodies are doing or starting off at this point to enable these transactions, as enable SMEs to raise debt. Would you be able to throw some light on some of those?
Yeah, so substantial work is happening. Open 4.0 has just come out, which is a platform very similar to the ONDC platform, where it is just a platform which facilitates lenders on one side, like HDFC Bank and ICICI banks, and on the other side, there are borrowers. And from what I hear, within half an hour, loans are being disbursed within half an hour. Loan in a platform which Government of India has been running for many years now, which is loan in PSB loans in 60 seconds, I think. And there's another one which RBI is coming up, which is very similar to OCEN. So within the government space, within semi-government space, within private space, a lot of work is happening on this. But then again, as I said, you can create a platform, you can create channels through which information will flow, but information has to be available, right? Information has to be correct. Just to give you one example, as I mentioned, we work with lenders who work in the micro segment. A very simple thing which many of us would not realize, we don't have a unique identifier. When I say I don't have a unique identifier, Aadhaar is one broadly unique identifier, but Aadhaar cannot be used in credit bureau. You cannot store Aadhaar, you can't search based on Aadhaar. Most of them don't have a PAN number. I'm talking of the micro segment. Voter ID, you can create as many as you want, etc., etc. So even something basic which to a layman might not appear to be a big problem is a big problem, because I can take loan as Vinay, I can take loan as Vinay Singh, I can take a loan as Dr. Vinay Singh, and I can generate 3 credit reports. So I have a platform where I can give loans in 10 minutes. but the data I have to keep rechecking and rechecking. So those are the things. Now, how do we overcome that? Udyam is a wonderful solution, right? SIDBI is greatly involved in that. MFIN is involved. Udyam is a number which is backed by Aadhaar. So your Aadhaar data is safe, nobody gets to know, but you have a unique Udyam, just like you have a unique PAN now, which is mapped to Aadhaar. So we have a Udyam number, and of course, for about your 6.3 crores of MSMEs, the process is on. Easier said than done. You can't, create Udyam numbers in 1 month for everybody. That process is on. So, a few years down the line, you will see a lot of these initiatives which are there in the pipeline really bearing fruit, and a lot of problems which entrepreneurs are facing today taken care of.
So we have started late, but at least going on it. Lot of things going on in that space. Would you like to add on something about your debt raising experience?
Yeah. So we are into clean energy, and clean energy is a need of the hour, and green financing is the solution to it. And definitely governments around the globe, and in fact government of India is pushing it a lot. So in green financing, for both MSMEs who are working in clean energy sector and their MSMEs. So for companies working in clean energy, so debt is easily available for different projects. If you have good IRR of the project, then you have financing easily available from State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Punjab National Bank, and other centralized banks. And there are NBFCs as well, like Tata Capital and other NBFCs are giving financing. And most important part is that it's just opposite what I have said earlier. Collateral is minimum or no collateral. So government supporting sustainability like that. So sustainability is a new thing. So they are supporting with minimum collateral or no collateral, because asset is the project, right? Then there are other financing available, like lots of impact investor funds are looking in India, and they are giving financing very easily. And there are ESG funds which are there in US and UK, Canada. Now they are coming to India, because India we have we are power guzzlers, we have lots of requirement, and that's how these all other funds which are earlier working overseas, they are now coming to India. So seeking finance with low interest rate and minimum collateral is easy in MSME. Now for the MSMEs who are not working in clean energy, they can adopt sustainability solutions. They can get loans for installing solar power plants so that they can reduce their electricity bills. Then they can generate electricity from waste. So there are lots of options available, and loans are available from SIDBI and other lending institutions as well. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to actually add an example to what you just said. So in Mumbai, there are so many, industrial zones, and some of those zones, what they do there is, some of those small industries in those zones, they're polluting industries. So earlier they were chemical industries or things of those sort, and relatively smaller and medium scale industries. And yet, because they have adopted the best ESG practices, have zero liquid discharge, and have adopted all the latest policy, adopted all the latest technology to reduce the environmental impact, some of them have got the permission to stay there. Some of them have got permission and subsidized loans and subsidized entire installation cost of entire solar panels, which take care of 2 shifts out of the 3 shifts that they have. Essentially reducing the operational cost by almost about 33% to 34% of a chemical plant, all operating costs reduced because of usage of ESG techniques and getting loans from those sectors. Well, getting back from the loans, let's move on to the equity side of it. So, Anirudh, Kulbhushan, why don't you share some light on, you have been helping organizations in raising, at the pre-IPO stage. So during that stage, or even at that pre-IPO stage, slightly pre-IPO stage, when organizations are considering raising funds through equity, you highlighted the challenges that it's all about awareness. But how do you see that this landscape changing over a period of time? Like you just said, gave an example of Oriana. Do you really see that quite a few of people are adopting onto it? And what is the adoption rate which is also happening here? And what is the conversion rate that you envisage in the next 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So, when we started raising equity for SME companies 10 years back, the number was minuscule. So, these 800, the run rate is like every year it is getting doubled. Doubled, yeah. So, recently in 2017, approximately 50 odd company got listed in one whole year. And now the rate is like 50 companies in a quarter. So really the awareness is getting higher and higher. And it is because of the whole ecosystem. So earlier there were hardly any investor in SME companies. SME companies are known, they are assumed to be a bigger risk in investing, and they have a higher mortality rate. So people were not very keen to invest initially, but now because the platform is proven, the track record is proven, the companies who have raised fund, they have proven themselves, and they have came out with greater numbers after the growth capital is there. So now the whole ecosystem is getting aware, and just to add how this awareness is happening for now the investors are so keen, and there is such a buzz in the whole world. Now I'm saying world, not only in India. So this 7,800 crore, out of this, approximately 2,000 crore was coming from out of India. Institutions like Morgan Stanley, Society General, JP Morgan, they are investing in SME companies through this IPO route. So in Oriana, Morgan Stanley has taken a very larger, piece of. They have done a larger piece of investment. Bank of America has invested post listing. So as this is getting the awareness, this is getting acknowledged. The whole ecosystem is getting mature, and people are coming, they are investing, and that is how the companies are also now interested, because they were earlier they were of this question that whether I am a very small town company, whether I'll be able to get subscription even. So with these numbers, I'm sure that companies are also getting that kind of confidence that yes, we will get the investors, and this is changing. In coming years, I am saying that this, if we have got 800 companies so far in 10 years, I believe after 2 years this will be a yearly number. That kind of companies, that kind of number I can really see. Yeah.
Nice, interesting. So getting back to you on this, so if you were to do another, as in start of another business, another small or medium scale enterprise, what would you go for first, equity or debt?
I'll go for debt first. I'll build something, I'll give some numbers, and then prove myself first again, and then I'll go for equity, yes, through MSME route, because P, VC, कभी नहीं आए MSME में और कभी नहीं आएंगे. So definitely we have a bigger route now, and this is a very good route. You have good visibility, you have brand enhancement, you can attract talent. Talent is the major problem of MSME, because normally it's a 1 or 2 man show. If you'll get good talent in your MSME company, then you can go anywhere in the world.
So you are saying that debt first and then equity. And any ballpark figures or numbers that you would suggest for because quite a few of them are from MSMEs. So do you think, could you go ahead and segregate, or in your knowledge, any segregation of how much debt, how much equity? Is there any golden ratio which works in certain kind of industries? Any thoughts on that?
So in debt, yes, promoters, everything. But in equity, investors they want skin of promoter in the game. So if you have equity above 50, 55%, 60%, then you can go in equity. But then definitely there is a gap between debt funding and equity funding. Equity funding comes at a very later stage. You have to prove yourself first. You will have lots of organizations working in debt, and when you will get some good number, some good turnover based on your industry, and if you will understand the PE thing in your industry, then yes, you will definitely have that ratio. And जैसा industry में work करता है 30-70 ratio, 70-30 ratio is the golden number. Yeah.
Vinay ji, what are your viewpoints on debt versus equity?
No, I think I would tend to agree with them because if the idea is good and if the entrepreneur is comfortable of building, why sell equity first? Build it up and then get a good valuation. So I think that makes very good sense.
So you are going contra. Okay, please go ahead.
I would also like to add. So this is a very thin line between a startup and a SME. So startup, what they have a thought, they have an idea, and they are looking out for equity. But in case of SMEs, this is the very thin line which makes them SME. They wanted to do business first, they want to be sustainable first, and then raising equity. And obviously, equity is it's a costlier instrument. So they need to raise debt first, build a company, and then raise a costly instrument. Just to have a very initial phase of growth, they should raise debt, yes.
So essentially you're saying that do not go the startup way, do the way you happen to digitally doing, right? So
I think on a lighter note, I would like to add, if you have a very good story, right, then go the startup way, because most of the time it's the story which sells. But if you have a ability to dirty your hands, get down to it, create things, sell them in the market, get money, get the whole cash flow, manage the whole cash flow thing, then of course go the SME way, because that's how businesses are created. But if you just want to throw money and have a very good story, startup is the way to go.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody. Thanks. Any closing notes from your side, please?
So, yes, startup and MSME. MSME are also not small. They can even go larger, even larger than unicorn. So we have to support MSME, buy debt, buy equity, buy SME IPO. It's very important for the country because we are heading towards $5 trillion economy, and it will not happen. MSME के बिना नहीं होगा. Right.
Interesting. Thank you. So your closing remarks, please. Sorry, I'll ask all of them for their closing remarks and then we'll conclude probably after that. Yeah.
I see it a way like if I go back 30 years ago, companies like Reliance, companies like Infosys, they were also MSME, like SME companies. The IPO, initial public offer of Reliance was of 5 crore only. The initial IPO of Infosys was 5 crore, barely subscribed. Undersubscribed. So Vallabh Bansali helped them to get their IPO subscribed. If you see the journey of Infosys since that day till today, you have to you have to cherish that journey. And I see that SMEs, if they are advised properly, if they are sufficiently funded, sufficiently means not above, not below. If they are sufficiently funded and if the intent is good, the companies can be bigger than unicorns. Obviously, I am on my journey to build few more Infosys out of SMEs. So that is what I am doing.
Yeah, it deserves a huge clap for that. Yeah, Vinay ji.
So from my end, if I could kind of give a piece of advice, that would be to embrace formalization fully. Be always on the lookout of how you can formalize your business more. Would be short-term issues, of course, in terms of adopting technology, in terms of investing some money in adopting technology, in terms of possibly higher outflow, in terms of taxes, etc. But in the future, people who don't formalize will get squeezed out of the whole thing, and things will become very expensive for them. So any 1 rupee put today, in terms of higher valuations that your business will get, the higher efficiencies that you will see, and the higher kind of cash flows that you will get to see. I think there is no doubt in my mind that formalization has to be embraced fully. And there are multiple schemes by government, SIDBI, NABARD, as I mentioned, and I think we must take full benefit of them.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, the panel, for this wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Menon.